Ancient mysteries science can't explain.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Titanic. I'm your host, Alexa.
We can try as hard as we like, but there are always going to be some mysteries that science just, can't explain. If you can shed some light on some of them, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section.
If you're new here, make sure that you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.
Where is Alexander the Great? In 356 BC, after Alexander the Great passed away, there were some strange happenings around the transportation of his mortal remains. Upon his passing, it was recorded by the historian of the time, Diodorus, that his body was mummified and placed in a golden sarcophagus. Then, that sarcophagus was placed into a larger golden casket and taken by wagon to his final resting place, the temple of Amun at Siwa in Egypt. But then things start getting murky because while the wagon transporting this gold coffin was traveling from Persia to Egypt, they met Ptolemy, a close friend of Alexander, along with one of the army's generals. Ptolemy suggested that they bury Alexander in Alexandria, but then the historian Diodorus doesn't follow up after that. It remains a mystery that researchers cannot uncover the truth of where Alexander the Great was laid to rest. It would be one of the greatest archaeological achievements of all time for anyone who managed to uncover his golden burial place. Sacsayhuaman, Peru. The next mystery lies in the ancient realm of Peru. Long before the Incas reigned in the area, what remains outside the town of Cusco is a walled fortress made up of giant boulders called Sacsayhuaman. Nothing remarkable about that, you think? Well, each boulder perfectly fits into the next with such precision, it almost looks like they're just patterned, chiseled from a single rock face. The rocks fit so snugly that you couldn't slide a piece of paper between them. It has never been determined how these were formed or placed to fit so beautifully together. Some of the boulders weigh over 200 tons, not exactly something you can put in place and then remove and chisel down a little more if you weren't quite satisfied. Even with modern technology, it would require highly specialized tools and precise instruments to measure each angle and then cut it and place it perfectly. Theories range from folklore to scientific. One is that a liquid extracted from a plant made the boulders lighter and more malleable. Another theory surmises that extreme heat allowed the rocks to mold together so perfectly. Another theory poses that a complicated wooden template was used in construction to obtain the effect. Cleopatra's Tomb. Through ancient texts, it appears that after their deaths in 30 BC, Cleopatra and Mark Antony were entombed together. It's written that the tomb is located near the tomb of the Egyptian goddess Isis. It was filled with the finest treasures, including gold, emeralds, pearls, ivory, silver, and ebony. However, to this day, its specific location remains a mystery. Many excavations have been conducted, even in recent years, and Cleopatra's tomb has never turned up. Archaeologists think that if the tomb was found, it might have been so heavily plundered that it wouldn't be identifiable. Casa Grande ruins in Arizona, USA. There are a few solid facts around Casa Grande in Arizona and many more mysteries that remain unsolved. Here is what archaeologists know. Casa Grande was built in the early 13th century. It was built from a method called adobe. This is a method of brick making that makes a tightly compact block from a mixture of sand, clay, straw or grass, and water, and then uses the sun to naturally dry them, so no oven is used. The building is part of a full complex that had many of these adobe structures and a ball court enclosed in a surrounding wall. What is unknown is who built this settlement. Columbus only arrived in the Americas half a century after it was abandoned, so that rules him out. The local Native American tribe, the Hopi, had moved away from the area by that time. It was also too ruined when the early Spanish explorers arrived on the scene for them to investigate its origins. So it remains a complete mystery as to what group of people built and lived in this ancient settlement. Since the 1930s, it remains a protected area under a roof that preserves it for future generations to wonder at its origins. The Copper Scroll Treasure, Qumran. In 1952, archaeologists found a copper scroll in a cave at the site of Qumran. It was part of the same haul as the other Dead Sea Scrolls that have brought insight into ancient civilizations, but the copper scrolls were different. Engraved on sheets of copper was a list of treasure, an inventory of sorts. So much treasure was listed, though, that scholars felt it was bogus because of the impossible amounts of gold and silver it listed. The scroll was dated to be over 1900 years old when the Roman Empire ruled the Qumran area. At this time, there were many revolts against Roman rule, and scientists theorized that it made sense that treasure was hidden to ensure it didn't get into the hands of the Roman forces. There is still no detail about where it is hidden, and even if it exists, but if it was uncovered, it would be like no treasure ever found before. Hypogeum Saflieni, Malta. Below Malta lies the oldest prehistoric underground temple in the world, the Hypogeum of Saflieni. It is a strange dome-like chamber carved from solid limestone that has always been shrouded in mystery. What sparked the initial hype was the discovery of elongated skulls which spun off all kinds of paranormal theories. But one of the surefire oddities is the unique acoustic properties of the chamber of the Hypogeum. It was named the Oracle Chamber, as it was thought it was a sanctuary for an oracle. One word spoken in this chamber magnifies 100-fold and can be heard throughout the whole structure. It has been described as being inside a giant bell, but it's not certain if these acoustic amplifications were intentional or not. Some pitches amplify so much that you can feel the sound vibrating through your body. Perhaps these ancient scientists had discovered something that modern scientists are yet to understand. Ancient site of Pumapunku, Bolivia. Stone cutting is easy now with power tools and diamond cutting, but when archaeologists uncover such ancient precision, it's a little unnerving, and it remains a mystery how it was formed. At Pumapunku in Bolivia, an archaeologist discovered this stonework that historians dated to 17,000 years ago. The stone cutting is so precise that it is impossible to imagine how it was done without a diamond tool. There is not a chisel mark to be found, but rather precise, straight edges that fit perfectly together. Some of the mammoth blocks weigh 800 tons, and their precision had scientists and stonemasons stumped. The Plain of Megalithic Jars, Laos. In Laos, there are fields littered with giant ancient jars. The jars are skillfully made from granite and limestone and are up to 9 feet tall and weigh several tons each. There are 3,000 giant jars and counting since they were discovered in the 1930s. The creators clearly had knowledge of the materials they used, and their technique shows skill. They were made using iron chisels from the Iron Age around 500 BC to 500 AD, but there's no knowledge of who carved them or the purpose of them. It remains a mystery to anyone who tries to understand the Plain of Jars. The Devil's Bible. In the 13th century, a monk was sentenced to be walled up alive in a tomb for breaking his vows. He asked the monastery to let him live, and he would write a book containing all human knowledge in one day. They seemed to have agreed, as the monk produced what is now known as the Codex Gigas, or the Devil's Bible. It's a massive medieval tome made from 160 animal skins and so heavy it takes 2 people to lift it. The legend goes that the monk sold his soul to the devil in order to help complete the task according to his promise. First, he wrote out a complete Latin translation of the Bible, then texts including words by Hippocrates and Cosmas of Prague, and then medical formulas. After that, the devil must have added his 2 cents, as it contains texts on exorcisms and a pretty large description of the devil himself. 12 pages are missing, and these are believed to contain satanic texts for conjuring the devil. The validity of this entire script still remains a mystery to this day. Do you have any explanations for these mysteries, or do you have mysteries of your own? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. 1. The Band of Holes, Peru. These holes will make your hair stand up, and there's no scientific explanation for them occurring naturally, so someone or something created them with a purpose in mind. On a rocky mountain terrain in Peru, leading up a hill and to a plateau, are thousands of holes carved into the rock. They are highly organized and fluctuate from curved rows to rigid lines, but they create strange, staggered lines. The holes range in size from several feet or meters to just a few centimeters. They have a very clear beginning and end point, ending where the earth abruptly turns darker, which looks like an explosion occurred. Scientists have predicted that it took decades to create the vast area of holes. Theories surrounding the holes range from human graves to grain storage, but the more popular opinion is that aliens had a hand in it. It's believed that they were created to contain fires that were lit to guide ancient aliens visiting the Earth. To date, there is no solid theory, so it's still an open playing field for discovery.